Raise your Zoom hand.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
all right,
I have
we're live on YouTube now. Here we go.
So we were talking about high quality
know.
audio in
Newbies.
Zoom, and Jason.
Maybe re-ask the question.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Phil. Ask the question.
We're live on YouTube now. Here we go.
All right.
We were talking about
Everybody
high
quiet down.
quality audio in Zoom.
Somebody's
That would be
mic is
Alex.
open or something. Yeah. So Michael's asking online music lessons over Zoom, multiple mics. The recorded feed from my end sounds great, but my sound on the student end, as revealed by a remote recording, is terrible. What can he do about that?
So Michael jumped in the chat and said that he hasn't done that stuff. So as a quick run through, go into the Zoom settings, go to audio, go to the advanced tab. First thing you need to do is show the button that says enable original sound. You need that button available to you in the meeting. Below that button are 3 checkboxes for disable echo cancellation. If you turn that one on, which you should, you need to make sure that you're wearing headphones and not trying to listen through speakers. All the way to the bottom, advanced tab. Thank you, Chris Fenwick. Second one is High Fidelty Music Mode. That will give more bandwidth to music and give you a higher sample rate. Be sure that you are wired via an Ethernet connection to use that. If you have a stereo microphone, you can turn on stereo audio. Then once you've done that, when you go into each meeting, you need to go in the upper left-hand corner of your Zoom interface and check the button that says Turn on Original Sound. You know it's on because the button has changed to Turn off Original Sound. It's a terrible UI, but that's what we're stuck with. Be sure you're wearing headphones while you're doing that.
Yay. Cool. Anybody else?
brilliant.
Jeffrey, you have something to say?
Well,
Yeah, the most problematic unknown is the fact of the student's laptop. We don't know what type of sound that you're sending it to, and if they've got a very cheap $200, $300 laptop, then the sound might not be great to begin with, and no matter how you sweeten the pot on one end, it's going to still taste like vinegar on the other.
It is interesting that he says the recording shows that the student end is bad. But well, no, I guess that makes sense. You got to turn all those things on.
yeah, if
Jason,
you had none of that on, he's sending out a pretty bad signal.
Jason, then Greg.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. There is no way to know because the cloud recording is going to, I would assume, be some facsimile of whatever it's getting. Probably a bad facsimile if you're turning off or turning on, or leaving on original sound and don't have stereo turned on. My guess is you're going to get a really low bit rate to begin with. I would try an ISO recorder. Just invite somebody else into the room with headphones on to see if it's actually as bad as you think it is after you've done group HD and all that, and also have your student upgrade Zoom. That will never hurt.
Courtney, then Bill.
Yeah, I mean, you all touched on all the perfect points there. I think what was happening there was he said multiple microphones, and what can happen with multiple microphones is it'll really screw up the echo cancellation algorithms with Zoom. So if you have that, it's just going to play havoc with your audio quality. So once you have to make sure you turn off echo cancellation for it to avoid trying to cancel your 2 microphones against each other.
Greg, then Bill.
Nothing. I just wanted to thank Jeff Francis for having my back.
Bill?
That was a really good answer, Jeff. I was just going to say, though, is there any reason in a music lesson circumstance to turn stereo on? Might he get a little better bandwidth by using just a mono signal in that? What's the point of stereo if you're just performing on an instrument?
Good point.
If you're playing drums, if you're
Set
playing
a number
drums,
of mics,
if you're playing drums, which is what he's probably doing, it's better to actually have it in a stereo environment. Otherwise, when you're miking up individual drums, it all will start to come through mono and really start to clip after
Good
a while.
point. He does say using multiple mics. So it's obviously going through a mixer. Why don't we move on? Phil, what's the next question?
Yeah, the only other option is get here on the first hour and play with it. And let us hear it. We'll give you some opinions. We'll give you about 27 opinions. Okay. Jeff Francis from Columbia and Zoom does High Fidelty Music Mode also devote more bandwidth to audio when sharing computer sound is in a Zoom screen share?
Jason?
it should be higher fidelity across the board. It shouldn't matter what the source is.
Well,
Has anyone tested that? That's
No,
my
of
question.
course. Oh, for the record, I haven't tested that, but come on.
Yeah, that was my answer too. I just haven't tested it yet, so I figured I'd put the question here and see if anybody has. So I guess I need to go test that this afternoon.
somebody's gonna have to. Look at this. Not a single hand up. All
I
right,
mean, you
next-
could do it right now, Fenwick. If you share your screen and look at your statistics and see how it changes from.
Here,
I'm
I'll
assuming
tell
you
what.
have a.
I'll make you
you-
co-host.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know if I can make you co-host. Mickey, can you make Jeff Francis a co-host? Let's do this. Let's figure it out. We don't have a lot of questions. We have plenty of time.
It's time for an office hours experiment.
You just jinxed the question thing.
Yeah. Oh, they're flooding in.
So
I'll
right now
come to
I
you,
am.
Victor.
I am sending 48 kilohertz, and I'm going to try to share. I need to get some sound, I guess.
Uh-oh.
Share computer sound on my desktop.
That's our YouTube hit.
Yep. And it still looks like, nope, that dropped to a send of 32 kilohertz.
Okay.
So it changed my send resolution. When I stop my share, it jumps back to 48 kilohertz. So I would say the answer to that is
Jeff?
no.
No.
Jeff,
Victor?
at this end, when you went from not screen sharing to screen sharing, looking at the statistics at this end, it went from receive of 48 kilohertz to a receive of 16/48 kilohertz.
Interesting. My send dropped to 32. Okay, I'll set
Here
up
you
a
go.
couple of machines and do some more extensive testing.
Just FYI, from the help bubble next to the high fidelity music mode from Zoom. Optimize Zoom's audio for the highest quality. It can increase CPU utilization, consume greater network bandwidth. For best results, not using Wi-Fi is strongly recommended.
I think it's interesting that that even Zoom is starting to get on the don't use Wi-Fi bandwagon. Because that was probably one of the first things I learned here. Because the first day or two I was on office hours, I was on Wi-Fi. Then I ran a cable all of 3 feet. I only had to run it 3 feet.
I had to do 100 feet out to the garage because that's where the voice booth was. So I had to wait for a cable to come in, long Ethernet.
Let's go to the next question.
All right.
I snaked wires through my house.
So Eric has since retracted this question, but I thought we'd just throw it in real quick. What is the application behind this? The portal, he's talking about the Mukana portal. Is it open source or commercial? And yes, it is custom code that Alex has commissioned and designed and has been working on for a couple of years. And so it's one of a kind. Enjoy it.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you go on YouTube, you can find on Alex's YouTube channel, you can find old videos that are like 6 and 7 years old, and they're called Ask Alex. And he's basically just doing a one-man office hours Q&A thing. And I was listening to one. He goes, "Yeah, so I'm kind of testing this thing. So here's the link to do the Q&A." So he's been working on the guts of Mukana. I think he'd said to us once about 10 years.
About a decade.
Yeah.
Long-term Google beta style.
Next question.
Okay, so Jeff again, make and model link for Stewart's new light. Equivalent product available in the U.S. or Costco or someplace. We need a link, Stewart.
Yeah, a link was actually given way up earlier in Mukana.
Yep. I gave the link before and posted it to the Bunnings one as well. Leadvance is the name of the company. 32 watt, 3200 lumen IP20. And it's the 3-color version for the one I'm using.
Really cool that it's 3 colors. Courtney.
Does that question on that lamp, does it have a dimmer on it? If you dim it, does it start to flicker with webcams and depending upon the frame rate of the camera you're shooting with it?
No dimmer that I'm aware of. And I
have a
have
problem.
barely looked at the instructions. I just chucked it up tonight because it was
I see. So it's just a
available for
regular
pickup.
ceiling light.
I
Does
think
it say if it's dimmable
yeah.
or not, though? That's the question.
Not that I can see.
For
Okay.
that
Looking at the
price
back of the
point-
box.
For that price point, I think diffusion would be better.
Yeah, I think diffusion would be a nicer finish too.
So Stewart, as a as a camera operator DP, what do you think of it?
I kind of like it for the price. I'm going to enjoy some time over the weekend, maybe setting up with the Scion and seeing what rate it does flicker at, because I can bump the camera up to 120 frames 4K, which is kind of useful to watch.
So you're on
Currently,
50.
but-
You're on 50 hertz in Melbourne, aren't you, or are you not 60?
Yeah. So this camera is a JVC HD7, so it's running at 25 frames a second. The Dahua BR250, which is ancient, also is not seeing any flicker and what have you. Although that said, I'm all 25, 50 hertz, and then I export from vMix at 720/30 to make sure it goes into Zoom at 30 frames per second, because that seems to work the smoothest.
When you first put this up, I began the process of trying to find one of your early appearances on Office Hours. I thought, oh, that'd be interesting to look at the before and after, because it's
a bit of a difference.
It was a bit of a difference, yeah, at the least. Let's see, any other hands up? Nope. Let's go to the next question.
Robert Baker from Rockville, Maryland, running a live production today and need to send the hosts to Zoom and feed the guest audio to them. No IFBs available. Have an analog mixer for the host's lav. What's the best way to route audio for Zoom?
Okay, we got to take this apart. So he's doing a live show and he's got hosts on camera. Send the host to Zoom and feed the guest audio to them with no IFBs available. Jason.
Fold it back in a low volume.
Yeah, this is going to be first. If you don't ride your faders, this is going to be a big mess. I had to do an event with exactly this right at the beginning of the summer. Ride your faders and just let them know when they're going to be on and when they can expect to be off. That's the best way to do it. Either that or go get some headphones.
Yeah, you could run a cable and just give them a pair of, gas station earbuds. Stewart, then Mickey, then Jeffrey.
The end of Robert's question there is, what's the best way to route audio for Zoom? Is he talking about getting it from the mixer into the computer? If so, is he using a mixer with a USB connection or an external sound card style thing?
Yeah, Mickey?
Avoid using the analog inputs on the computer.
Yeah, Mickey?
Yeah, I'll second what Jason said. Ride the faders. If you're gonna put the remote people's audio out to the room on open loudspeakers on monitors, ride the fader, and also, if you have the capability to do so, sidechain compress the monitor speakers coming from the onstage presenters, so that their audio ducks the audio from the remote presenters. But yeah, and also remember, when you're feeding the audio back to the remote presenters, don't do any compensation for delay of the video that you may be sending back to them, because that could just wreak havoc.
Yeah, I'll come to you, Jeffrey. One of the things that I've been noticing with these kind of things in the stuff that we've been doing is you absolutely have to test everything early and often. You need to test it early enough that when you find the problems, you actually have time to purchase whatever you need to fix the problem, or acquire or get, if you're not dealing with a pro like Mickey who shows up with one of everything in his bag. Jeffrey?
The other thing is, we're not sure what he means by the live production. Do you have people in-house that are going to a Zoom, or are you going to be using something like a vMix or something like that to bring guests in, to bring them into Zoom from there? If the second is the case, then you just set up a mixing board with a good mix minus to it, and you should be able to cancel out a lot of the talkback from what they're saying to what the guests are saying. So that would be the big question: is where the audio is coming from.
All right, so who wants to take on the responsibility of the office hours wiki answer for what's a mix minus? Jeff Francis, do you want to take that?
Sure. I'm kind of thinking about if he's using his analog mixer to create amplification for whatever in-person audience is in there for this live production. That audience needs to hear the host's local lavs amplified out to the audience, and they also need to hear the Zoom feed amplified out to the audience. That's the full mix. What goes into the Zoom computer to go to the remote people is a mix minus. It is just the host's lavs. So it's the host's lav minus the other stuff. So you need a separate auxiliary send with just the host lav in that. And then you need another auxiliary to take the return feed from the remote Zoom presenters to go to a small, quiet monitor speaker so the hosts can hear the Zoom remote people. This is a case where you want to leave echo cancellation on and let Zoom do its job of canceling that echo. Especially because I doubt in this analog mixer, he doesn't have any kind of Dugan auto mix. He probably doesn't have a sidechainable compressor. This is probably a very simple analog mixer. So let Zoom do its echo cancellation job.
Jason?
I was just going to answer just simply what a mix minus is. My mix minus is this entire program minus my voice. Jeffrey's is the whole thing minus Jeffrey's voice. Jeff's is Jeff's minus Jeff's voice. And in this case, all the minus the voice is going to be all one collective mix minus. So think of it as a group less the things that can feed you back.
Mr. Powers.
So Robert's been commenting in Mukana about it, and it's a 30 by 20 room, which so the speakers are going to be in this room, and then they're going to have a Zoom. Similar to what I've got here. Now, normally I use an earbud, so we don't have any type of echo back and forth. But if you got a good speaker at a reasonable volume, the first hour I usually do of this call, I have it on a sound bar, which I've never heard anybody say, hey, you were getting a lot of slap back echo on there. But if you, once again, you're writing the faders for that audio, but you put the speakers at a pretty good distance away, and possibly, depending on what type of speakers, if you have them in front, that's okay. But if you have them to the corners, kind of facing the wall, so that all they're doing is bouncing back and forth from the wall to the wall, and they're not going in the direction of the speakers and the microphones, you'll probably have a little bit better of a chance. And if they can hear everything, then that might be the best solution right there.
Great. Robert, I hope that helps. Any other comments? Sky?
Oh, I have to step away. I just want to say thank you to you gentle people, and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you, Sky.
Bye.
All right, Phil, next question.
Greg Gibson from Washington, D.C. Yesterday during the Zoom 1080p discussion, Chris Fenwick was going to expand on the discussion, but then decided to move on. I'm curious where he was going with that discussion.
No clue. So Zoom used to, I think this is what we were talking about, Courtney. Zoom used to have much better resolution. Pandemic hit, they throttled everything down so their whole system didn't collapse. In order to get 1080p, they claim that if you purchase a Zoom room, that the Zoom room will have 1080p. But when you call Zoom and talk to them, and I've done this, and I said, hey, can I get some of that sweet 1080p? They said, you can pitch to us why you think you deserve 1080p. And if we like your pitch, then they will bless you with 1080p. So as it turns out, there's a fair amount of just human engineering, social engineering involved to get that final step. Bill?
Yeah, I think the overall social thing is everybody famously has been reading that Zoom went from 1 million or 2 million users to like 200 million in the space of a couple of months. So you can imagine if you have a hose and there's only a certain number of lawn devices feeding it, and you massively scale that up, getting enough water to everybody becomes a challenge. And that's how I've always think of what this has been to the infrastructure of delivering video across the internet to people. The demand has been extraordinary, and I just want to thank all the video distribution companies. Zoom is doing fabulously, and everybody kind of understands here. We all believe that they're doing probably the best job of anybody out there. But everyone who serves video out to the public, and the public has needed this badly during this lockdown period, are all doing their best to try to get this taken care of. And so these are, not getting everything you want as an individual sometimes I think is just a process, because there's a lot of people who need it very badly, sometimes worse than I do. So,
Guy, were you going to say something?
Yeah, on the Zoom site, it actually spells it out pretty quick. I mean, it says that what you need for full HD is a business, education, or enterprise account. And so the number starts at 10 licenses for a business account. So to get 1080p, you gotta pony up. And so we're trying to figure out a way that we can maybe have a club or something.
Yeah, count me in for one of those cooperatives. Do all the domain names have to be the same? That's a legitimate question.
Nope.
Oh man, we're gonna get kicked out of Zoom for sure.
Well, I'm thinking about firing up a separate enterprise account so that then if it does blow up, then we just wipe our hands clean and I don't blow up my personal account or my company account.
Sell shares, Guy. A lot of us will be in.
We can also share our Netflix passwords. Yeah.
John?
I just want to do my plug for Zoomtopia, which is coming up in October 14th and 15th, and register. Just say it will be an interesting event. And Guy, you did point out there that the second line in there was contact Zoom. But, Chris, I don't know. You might just not be sweet enough of a talker.
I also haven't purchased the Zoom room yet. And by the way, Bill, yes, if you put enough water on the lawn, it will be green. So that's my lawn. I'm really proud of it.
Don't say that to me.
I'm not a good Californian because I'm putting an ungodly amount of water on it.
Or is it Photoshop? You know what? I think you're better at Photoshop than you are at watering grass.
That is
why
just
they
a
can't
great
put
shot
out all
from
those
the- from the
fires
farm.
right now. They don't have enough water.
It's my fault. I will take
Now we
the
know
blame.
why.
Fenwick's lawn looks great, and your house is on fire. Let's go to the next question, Phil.
Okay. Next question. Standing by. Clicking and. So, Courtney, question for Guy Cochran. Did you ever find anyone to run your 3D printed ATEM Mini Stands? If not, he has a new design that may work for you and can be printed quickly and cheaply.
I have not
I'll
found
take one.
yet.
I might too.
What's your
We're
new
still
design?
in discussions with a couple of the people that we talked Shapeways, and we're trying to get some prices just for 100. So that's where we're at right now, just to quickly print those before we can send them off for mass production in overseas or wherever. Courtney, you got something?
Yeah, I zoomed out a little bit. I'll try and show you what so I just jumped on Tinkercad last night, and I came up with these, which are a lot smaller than the thing you're using. And I'll show you how you use them. They print out, a pair of these will print out about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. You can print about a dozen of them in about 3 hours, which is what it takes to print the other ones. So you take your ATEM Mini or Mini Pro, and the only thing you have to do is move the rubber strips that are here over. They're covering up the screw holes. Then you take one of the handy dandy and you shove these, and they're printed, and the trick is they must be printed out of TPU filament, which they go in securely and they will not fall out. And they are, once I get it all the way in. And let me see if I can get something.
That's a better design. I like that.
The elegance of that solution is phenomenal.
And so it doesn't, you don't have to use any tools or anything to attach them. You can easily put them on and off, and they're being made out of urethane. They're unbreakable. So
that's pretty cool.
And print about a dozen of them in 3 hours.
Hey, Courtney,
and I will
can you run it?
I will post.
Can you run it?
Sorry, go ahead.
Can you run a test on me for me? I've been doing a laser thermometer on the bottom, and I've seen it on my ISO. I've seen up to 134 degrees Fahrenheit on the bottom, I'm kind of curious if you raise that up, if that what your temperature is flat on the surface, and
Right
then
down
raised up
here?
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the ISO, if you're looking on the bottom side, the right side, that's where the fan is. That should be nice and cool. But on the left side, it'll be crazy hot. At least 110 is what they're saying. But
Left
like I
side
said,
from
I've
the
clocked it
top
up to
or left
130.
side from the bottom?
Where you're pointing, yes, that's where it'll be hot. Excuse me, because that's how the direction where the heat's going. So it just monitor that, and if it's a big difference on the stand, or if it runs flat, if it doesn't make a difference.
Courtney, if I send you a bottle of wine, would you send me your overrun, 2 of your overrun pieces?
Yeah, just go out. I'm just telling you, just go out and buy a $200 Ender 3 printer from China. It comes within a week. They have U.S. warehouses.
I will never own a 3D
It takes
printer.
17
Never.
hours to calibrate, and then you tap it.
You do have to assemble it, so you do require some degree of
Yes.
expertise.
Stewart.
It takes about 20 minutes.
2 bottles of wine.
Okay, 134 degrees Fahrenheit won't matter because BMD is an Australian company, so unless it's in Celsius, we don't care. But for 3D printing tips, if anyone's interested, there is a channel called Sexy Cyborg, Naomi Wu, who is actually a representative of Ender and actually does reviews of their hardware and does feedback. And she's a little nuts, but
Yeah,
He is a little
She's
nuts.
got a couple of big nuts. Yeah, right.
Victor.
Courtney, will you be putting out a copy of that file in Discord or something so we can steal?
I just posted it in the chat. I can put it in Discord. Did it not come through in the chat?
Either way,
Oh, it came in.
I don't have a printer, but I have a nephew that has a printer.
Crazy.
There it is. It just showed up.
Next
That's the
question.
best kind of printer to
It's on
have, Victor.
Thingiverse, and if you just search for ATEM, it'll show up as one of the 6 choices there.
Chris is going to go carve one out of balsa wood.
I would do that. A guy,
Just wanted to say thank you for creating that. And I mean, that's what I love about this community. You just ask and people come up with ideas and share information. I mean, this is so cool.
Absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Go, Phil.
Sorry. Okay. Eric Hall from Mount Vernon. Is ATEM a standard? Some Googling only brings up unrelated acronyms. What does it stand for? Really, an Egyptian god? What's up with that? Sounds like a Jerry Seinfeld bit. What's up with that?
Jason.
It's a product name. We actually had, what was his title? The North American head of marketing. And that very question came up. The answer is they bought a product called ATEM, and it's still called ATEM.
Bill.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Yeah, to the best of our knowledge, but it's a set of mixers, and since this person who asked the question it doesn't seem tremendously familiar with it, the ATEM makes a whole series of switches. So Blackmagic has a big line of products, including huge switchers for the industrial user. And they came out just maybe, what was it, 7 months ago with the mini version, and it just swept through the industry because everybody was having to do this stuff from home. So that's the ATEM mixer is kind of shorthand now for your small home mixer.
Okay, next question.
Yep. Peter, our educator friend from Vienna, Austria. How can I use an IEM in-ear monitor to hear myself as well as other participants in a Zoom meeting when the camera and microphone run through an ATEM Mini into the computer? I only manage to hear either myself or monitor style or other participants and me with too much delay.
Jason.
Loopback is a fantastic application that will allow you to have any combination of pretty much anything you'd like. And unless your computer is so slow that it can't loop back on itself, that'll do it. As far as PC, someone else help me out here.
Mickey.
Sorry, I didn't have my hand up. I'm not ready.
Okay, Bill.
It depends on how your patching is done to get your sound. a lot of people, like me in this case today, are running my audio through my laptop, and the laptop is what's connected to Zoom. There are also people who are going through like an ATEM mini mixer, and they're connecting the ATEM directly to Zoom in one of the Pro models or above. So it depends on what your pathway is to get out to the world. But if your pathway is simple through your laptop or your phone or something like that, just connect your audio to that and you should be fine. It's only when you go through that pathway out to an external device that you end up with delay that you have to fix.
Nikki, then Jeffrey.
Yeah, if your sole way of getting the signal from your mic into the computer is through the ATEM, you're gonna end up with very distracting latency on your own voice because the ATEM automatically lines up the audio to the video, which is delayed. Um, if you have another interface that you could use to get your mic into the computer, you could use something like loopback or audio hijack, or get a piece of hardware mixer that could allow you to mix your monitor coming from Zoom, what you hear from other people, plus your own mic for your own monitoring purposes.
Jason, then Jeffrey.
It just occurred to me one way that, and I don't know how bad the latency will be, but if you use the only HDMI out port and you have a monitor that's out, and that monitor has a headphone jack, plug into that, and that'll give you program audio with pretty low delay.
Jeffrey, then Courtney.
First of all, PC, you don't need to have the loop back. It can actually take multiple sources and send them in different directions. So that's a good thing. But if you need to hear yourself, then you can use something like OBS Wirecast vMix, and then use the monitor mix so you can hear yourself and then hear the Zoom, and neither will the two collide.
Courtney.
Yeah, I went the analog route, and I have the bought the $170 Samsung mix pad, which is also serving as my audio interface. And the nice thing about this, and unlike several others that have USB audio interface, which didn't seem to work, this one, if you press the little button that says return USB to mix, you then hear both your microphone and the other people on the panel coming in through my in-ear monitor, so I can hear if I, turn on echo, I can hear that in my ear and adjust it, or I can also fly in, sound and sound effects from other sources and hear them as well. So that's important if you want to mix your stuff in your ear as well as hear the people back. So I would suggest getting an outboard mixer and using it as your USB interface, like other people have said.
Okay. Somewhere in my mind, I see a chart, a PDF document or something that has time left to right and shows the different places that you could plug different things in, and it would go through and sort of explain, where the delay happens and some best practices. But I don't have time to make that. Phil.
Vincent Alvarez, a friend has a Canon XA11 video camera and needs an onboard battery light. I'm assuming battery powered light. I asked him his budget. He said about $60. So maybe he can get him to spend double, need richer friends. Any ideas?
Yeah, I assume you're probably right. A battery powered light, because I don't know anybody that really needs to illuminate their battery. Any ideas? Bill, then Stewart.
These have been around for a long time, so there's a pretty robust industry of on-camera lights going back to the old tungsten bulb in a thing on top of the camera days. You want to get away from all of that old stuff. Today, everything is LED or what the newer technology, which is COB, chip on board. So there's a variety of lights. Power can be a problem. Lights do tend, even the more efficient ones, to drain batteries. So if you're going to be on a camera or something like that and you want to tap into a battery, the smaller camcorder batteries that could provide an extra load for it. So you might want to think about one of those on-camera lights that has a separate battery pack so that the light can be burning one set of power and your camera the other. But outside of that, there's a whole variety. Just look for on-camera light. And you should find multiple versions.
Stewart?
Similar to what Bill's just said, literally go to eBay, type hot shoe LED, and you will get a raft of responses that are all different brands of the same cheap knockoff battery powered LED. A lot of them now have a backplate that allows you to use an LPE6 or a Sony NPF battery on the back of it, and for any budget operation, they're pretty good. If you need something that's got a really good CRI rating, have a look at Aperture's website, but you won't get anything for under 60. I'm assuming that's 60 US.
And Guy, what was that paper towel light you had this morning?
Oh, that's this guy
Again,
right here.
it was a light attached to paper towels, not a light to illuminate his paper towel.
It's the Aperture MC. This one's about $99. It does do RGB. It comes with a nice diffuser, which is what I like. So typically, you're going to have, this thing's really on here. You're going to have just bare LED, which is pretty harsh light, and you're going to see some shadows and stuff like that. But this really softens it up, and it's got the intensity control, saturation controls. But I believe it's $99. So Aperture MC.
And it mounts to paper towels properly.
Well, it doesn't. I actually added a clamp, which is why I can get the bottom thing off. So add a clamp. But yeah.
Guy,
cool.
is that the one that comes with the D-Link cable or D-Tap cable as well?
No,
So
it comes with a
powered from the camera?
USB-C cable because it's self-powered. It has a built-in battery. It's just a USB-C.
Yeah, so for anyone going upscale, a lot of V-Lock batteries now have a USB output on them. So that light would be my first choice for anything with a real budget.
Bill, do you have something you want to add to this?
Yeah, I just wanted to toss in the fact that this idea of how you're going to power it has evolved very quickly. I think I wouldn't buy anything now that isn't like what Guy just showed you that has a USB-C port in it. Those have a battery storage built into them, so you charge it with USB-C overnight, and then you can use it usually for some hours, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. You can also take any one of the little external phone charger things and USB-C plug it in so that it doesn't run out as quickly. So that's better than the old. Stewart mentioned like D-taps. Those were things that used to be on cameras that you could run your light on the camera from, but that's all kind of going away. And I think USB-C is the way everything's headed now.
D-tap's going away? Really?
That was back. D-tap was back there when you needed those big Anton Bauer batteries to run a camcorder and run a light for a significant period of time, so you didn't run out in the field when you were shooting something. Everything is so much more efficient now that I think everything's going to these
They're
smaller
not going
power
anywhere, but boy, will I not miss them if they do.
I know. Yeah.
Stewart,
investing
The
thousands
advantage of the
in
USB,
systems.
the advantage of the USB-C over the D-Tap is you can't put USB-C in backwards. It goes in either direction. You put D-Tap in backwards, as some people have forced it, and you fry things.
Does it make your light very dim when you plug it in backwards? No. Mickey.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. I don't think D-Tap's going anywhere in the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, it seems to be super well established. Maybe at the lower end, we'll see USB things, but I think in the cinema world, D-Tap is pretty entrenched. Phil, next question.
Alton from Brooklyn, what's the preferred vendor for stable and reliable memory cards bought in quantity for production recording? SD and CFE, CF Express, Lexar, SanDisk, etc.
What are your preferences? I don't care. Just make sure there's images on it. Stewart, then Mickey.
Samsung. It's reliable. For SD cards, SanDisk.
Mickey?
Yeah, every piece of equipment, well, almost all pieces of equipment, their manufacturers release lists of specific models of cards that are recommended for their gear. So check out those lists. It varies from equipment to equipment, and even from model of card to model of card. Like the same speed of card from the same manufacturer may have different model numbers. and sometimes like even the faster cards would fail tests for a piece of equipment when a slower one will pass it. So look at those
Interesting.
lists.
Yeah, I learned the hard way when we bought our first drone that had 4K. It was one of the Mavics, I think, and it had the little tiny card. And it was like, oh wow, the speed of the card really does make a difference. Jeffrey.
Yeah, I've done some Amazon testing, buying little credit cards like this one right here, which I'm not going to tell you the brand name. Which, by the way, this is probably the best out of the bunch. But running through tests like that, you find it says, oh, it does 96 megabits per second, and then you go through the testing system. It download might be 64, upload might be 30. For me, SanDisk has been the tried and true. With a secondary of Samsung. But yeah, I would stay away from anything that's non-brand and you've never heard of the name before.
Mickey, you had your hand, or no, Courtney had his hand up.
Yeah, I agree with the SanDisk and Lexar, but be careful if you're buying off eBay or some other place. Buy one first, because there's a lot of counterfeits out there that say Lexar and say SanDisk on them. They look exactly like the real things. All the packaging looks almost the same, except they're, it'll say 256 gigs and it'll be 20 actually. It'll even come up saying it's 256 gigs, but when you try and record to it, it'll run out at about 20 gigs. Wow. Or 16 gigs. So be very careful. Buy one. If you see one at a really good price, buy it and test it. It's probably not a legitimate one. So be careful of the counterfeits. They are out there with especially those top selling names.
Stewart, then Mickey. It seems like I've said that a lot of times today.
Yep. One thing to look at when you're looking at the specs is don't go by the maximum speed that it says it'll read out or write to. Look for sequential read, which is larger files specifically for video. The higher that number is, the better off you are. The other thing is, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, you can look at MLC, TLC, like different layers of NAND memory, and you want as few of those layers as possible.
Mickey?
Yeah, like just to reiterate, speed is not the only factor. Look at the manufacturer's list, and when buying these cards, I suggest go with reputable sellers of like video equipment, like Guy Store or DVE Store. For sound, there's Gotham Sound, True Audio, all those other reputable stores, because they know what they're selling. They're not just there to sell it; they're there to make a relationship with the customer.
Jason.
Yeah, sold to and ships from Amazon, or sold to and ships from Newegg. These are your very best friends. Oh, Mickey's like, no, not a chance. But you get the idea. A lot of companies will seamlessly transition you into a third-party seller, and that is exactly what you don't want with media. I would say also the Blackmagic media speed tester tool. If you don't want to have to learn as much as sounds like most of the panel has, I certainly have over the years, about cards, use that. Just let it roll through 5 gigs a few times and see what it can do.
Yeah. Let's go to the next question.
Okie dokie, James Babbitt from San Diego. Are there settings to improve the audio in the Zoom desktop version also available on a mobile device? A teacher is using an Android phone for Zoom.
I don't know. Any of you Android guys know? Wow. Crickets from the panel. I don't know. Bill knows. Bill, answer the question.
I just don't. I think these are Zoom settings in there, and as long as there's a pathway to Zoom, why would it make a difference what the device is? If the device is sending good audio at a good bit rate, why wouldn't Zoom see that as it would see anything else, Jeff?
Well, one thing we do know is that in the Zoom controls, they actually recommend using Ethernet. So maybe some of that capability is not available from a phone. Jeff?
The new High Fidelty Music Mode is Mac and Windows OS only, but you can on mobile devices turn on original sound, so you can that will disable echo cancellation. Doesn't give you the higher bandwidth because you need Ethernet for that.
I love the next question. Phil, go ahead and read the next one.
So Stewart wants to ask Jason, have you tested the Mokose camera? Was it good or did it not do good?
Yes, I've tested it, and I think it's great. The real caveat is that you need to get used to a manual lens. So if you don't understand what aperture is, you probably shouldn't use it.
And did you see a big difference between the USB and the HDMI out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The capture, so keep in mind, it only captures to the card at 4K. It does not do 4K out, at least not that I've been able to get through USB or through HDMI. I mean, I could be wrong. I've only had a few minutes to play with it.
Stewart, then Jeff.
Any chance of any info on the data rate? I'm thinking it would make a really good crash cam, especially with the little, like the Cosmicar lenses and whatever.
I can run a test and tell you, but offhand, I don't remember.
Mr. Francis.
This is the Mokose that I'm using this morning. So HDMI into the ATEM Mini Pro.
Cool.
So there you go.
Victor?
The only difficult thing is it's farther than arm's reach away, so tweaking the focus is really tough.
Yeah,
How far
Jeff,
away
can
is
you
it
show
from
us how you have it hooked up? Can you show us a picture of the camera and how you have
Yes.
the connectors?
I'm glad
Hang
we
on a
tested.
second.
I'm glad we tested your mic, Paul.
We all don't have 40 cameras hooked up to our rigs either.
Hang on, I'm plugging in another one.
Oh wow, it's a good distance back there.
Yeah.
So it's like it looks like it's about 9 inches to a foot behind your monitor.
Probably 18 inches.
And is that the default CS lens? Is that what do you have on it?
It's the lens that comes with it.
Can you pin him, Chris? Because we're not seeing him in the speaker view because other people are talking.
Yeah. Can you do that, Mickey? Can you pin Jeff's camera?
Yeah,
Jeff's
good
feed?
job, Jeff. You've got that on a pole. That's really cool.
Mickey, can you pin Jeff Francis? Mickey was listening to something. Can you pin Jeff Francis's feed for everybody? Or spotlight it? So there's his camera, and then he's going to switch to the camera feed.
So, Jeff, which lens do you have for that? And have you thought about trying to get a different one? So it's a C or a CS mount, right?
It is. I can't remember which C or CS, and I've thought about it, but haven't yet tried another lens. That's the variable focus lens. Their zoom
Somebody
lens. They
said
have
in
two
the
models.
chat that it was CS.
And how are you getting your phone into your ATEM Mini? To derail here.
Lightning to HDMI.
Oh, I didn't see a cable attached to it. Okay.
Jeff, is that pole a floor to ceiling pole?
No, it is a.
Looks like a light stand.
Cheap light stand, old photo.
Oh, wow.
Umbrella.
Oh, you're giving Paul ideas.
And that's just that's a microphone mount. So it's got a 5/8 inch thread. It's actually used like a popper stopper pop filter. Just clamps onto the side of that.
Yeah, thanks for the great ideas there, Jeff. Thank you.
I can hear Paul's mouse clicking.
Paul
right
has
now on Amazon.
13 cameras that can fit on that pole, and that would be about a third of them.
Jeff, are those plastic tubs behind you? What? What?
Those are
brand
the best.
All right, let's go to the next question.
Yeah,
oh,
Paul,
I'm sorry, Victor. Victor, I saw Victor.
I need to leave, and
Okay.
so we've been doing the sync test. I just want to make sure. Am I still in sync?
Let's put.
If
Victor
I am still
up.
in sync, then ATEM
Yeah.
fixed the issue because I'm plugged into the Cal
Yeah,
Digit.
you're good.
Looks
It's
perfect.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
good for Black Magic.
There you go. There's your sync test. Thanks, Victor. We'll see you next time. Let's go to the next question.
Okay, Paul wants to have Guy and John talk about their portal applications. Anything in particular, Paul? Say it into the microphone.
Yeah, just in general, what are they doing with Portal, and why'd they pick that model Portal, and why won't the other portals do what that model will do?
John, you're not gonna grab it? Okay, I'll grab it. Mine's
I'll
downstairs.
let you go first. I have to think of what I can say, but you go and then I'll add.
Okay. Basically, behind me, I have a proper Zoom room. This is one that you would find like in an educational facility or in a corporate environment. And the interface on the portal on the 15-inch $270 one is pretty much the same. And so it's a big 15-inch touchscreen. So to me, it's a heck of a value for a large screen, a really nice speaker. The microphone's terrible. And then the thing actually zooms in and follows you. It doesn't physically move. So most people, when they see it, they think that it's moving around. It's an oversized 4K camera sensor, and then it's zooming in. It is kind of creepy, but before the hour started, between 6 and 7, we were playing with it a little bit, and the quality of the image, I mean, what did you guys think of the quality of the image?
When it wasn't zoomed in, it looked great.
No, I thought it was surprisingly good. And so it's doing a pan and scan on that 4K frame.
Yeah, but you had a very blue room, so I'd like to see it with a little bit more vibrant color, if I remember correct.
Yeah, Guy, this is my portal. I'm right now, and I'm using the one that mounts on top of your monitor.
Oh, okay.
And will that one not do the same as what yours does?
I don't think that one has the follow mode. So that if you go into the menu, there's actually manual control, so you can frame up the shot just how you would like, or you can have it follow you, or there was a group mode that I guess it's for 2 people. So if there's 2 faces, it doesn't go hunting. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the device. And I think, I don't know if you want to quote me on this or not, but we didn't bring the Zoom room in this morning to bump this meeting up to 720p for the panelists. So I think that it's doing what the Zoom room does, and you don't have to have a Zoom room account. So go buy a portal and try it out yourself and return it if you don't like it. But I think it's an awesome value.
We are at 720p.
Yep.
But I wonder if somebody else could be causing that.
Could be,
Maybe we should do an experiment with a smaller group offline just to double check.
Give it a shot.
Just set up a new user called Paula Portal and just put that online every day. And once she joins us, then it will always be 720.
But it does. So I know it has to be set up with the Facebook account. And I heard Felipe groan when you said that earlier. Didn't I? He's laughing. But once it's set up, can you disconnect it from?
That's what I'm about ready to do, because I want to make it so that the family could use it. So I don't want them calling 1,200 friends, just because right now it's fully hooked up. So I had to put a passcode on it to lock them out so they couldn't use it. But yeah, I'm going to disconnect my Facebook account from it, and then hopefully the apps just stay, because the app just got released this morning. So
yeah, why don't you play with it some more and report back? It seems like I'm very curious about why we're getting 720p. It doesn't.
We'll test it.
Yeah, where do you get the app? What app are you using? I'm sorry, I had some bandwidth issues. I hardly heard anything.
On the screen itself. So on that 15-inch screen, there's apps like Spotify and a couple Deezer, a couple different music things that you can put on there. And this morning I just saw the Zoom app. I've been waiting for days because a little birdie told me it was coming. So I went ahead and bought one and patiently checked every day.
Next question is from Mr. Mr. Ittelson.
Who's got hosts? If you could switch my portal on, I could turn my back on and mention a few more things.
What do we got to do? Okay, so we're switching. We're spotlighting your portal.
Yeah.
And we'll come to you, Stephen, next.
Rejoin you as a panel, and then let me turn this microphone off.
Okay. So turn on your camera on the portal.
Is my camera not on?
Nope. We see
Famous last word.
We see your headshot.
Start my video. There we go. So now I'm on the portal using the portal microphone. And one of the nice things about it is this is a second monitor. So I think it's showing me, but you could pin somebody else on the second screen, whoever hosts. You're shaking your head, guys.
Yeah, it worked.
No, that's crazy. I didn't even think about it for that, because now you can have a series of these set up and you can pin people on those for pulling people into other shows. That would be really
what
cool.
A surprise. That's what I'm testing later today. I wish the microphone was better. I will be doing tests, but to answer the question about the TV model, I do not believe it has this capability.
John, does that mean that the portal doesn't have any audio in, no microphone connection directly to it?
It has no microphone connection to be. Oops, my monitor died. The battery. No, there we go. It has a USB-C connector that either can be used for the second monitor or to connect it to Ethernet, one or the other.
But that's the only I/O option you have. Everything
That's the
else
only
is
one that I see. I haven't tried to break it open
Yeah,
yet.
this morning I tried hooking up a Sound Devices Mix Pre 6. It didn't recognize it. I hooked up a Rode Video Mic NTG. It didn't recognize that. And then I threw on some Apple AirPod Bluetooth speakers and connected it via Bluetooth, and I could hear, but I could not speak through the microphone.
But I connected the pair at Bluetooth, and I was able to speak and hear. But I'm not sure it improved the quality because the Bluetooth wasn't all that great.
And since I'm on a portal right now, I could actually call John, or you Guy, and you could retransmit me on your portal, couldn't you?
Well, you could call us under a faceback. Once this is running a Zoom app, this is just a Zoom room. All the rest of the Facebook stuff is gone. And to answer Guy's question, I have a password on it. So if anybody else wants to play with it, my grandkids and stuff who like to do the story time, they can't get into the into the Zoom app without the password.
So I have a question. Paul keeps mentioning a portal, and Greg, I see your hand is up. The portal, I'm hearing portal, and I'm thinking of this little stand with the 15-inch screen and a camera. But Paul, do you have something else that is called a portal that is a different form factor than what Guy is showing now? Oh, okay. So there's a bunch of different ones.
I have a portal that sits on top of my monitor. I've got one over here and then one over here. I can switch portals. I've got two portals. That's portal 1 and that's portal 2. And it's it looks like a Brio kind of.
Right. So that's the portal. It's called a Portal TV. There's the Portal Mini.
Paul, you could do something. You could turn that on and see if the Zoom app is there. They haven't rolled out to everybody, but if it showed up on that, then you could do it.
Yeah, I'm going to look right now and see if I can get that app.
Can you turn off the on-screen displays where it says photo and video on the bottom there, Paul?
No, you cannot. Or maybe there's a workaround that lets you do that. And sometimes it just does it on its own. It turns off all those things. And I'm looking at the app selection right now, and I don't see an app on there that does that. Nope, it's not available yet.
Okay. Greg, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I kind of like John's portal because I feel like I can hear my speakers over his transmission, and it makes me feel good.
I'm glad that I could do that for you.
Okay. Jan Landy. Recent. We're getting a look into Paul's private life here. All right. Let's go to the next question. Oh, I'm sorry, Stewart, you had something to say.
Have anyone done any security tests on that thing to make sure it's not listening when it's
it's absolutely turned off? Listening. No, don't kid yourself.
You're assuming it is.
It absolutely is. Welcome to George Orwell. It is the view screen. It is Big Brother, without a doubt.
It's
show
not
of hands,
called
I'm
the
curious.
one-way portal. It's called the portal.
Right, exactly. So by show of hands of the panelists, and listen to the question, how many of us have experienced this? You're having a discussion with somebody about something that you've never searched for on the internet, and the next time you go to your phone, an ad comes up about the thing you were discussing. How many have experienced that?
Okay, that doesn't mean they're listening, but Facebook, I wouldn't think for a second, like if someone's
why
going to
does
do
that
it, it would
not
be
mean
Facebook.
they're listening? for example, Paul, my boss, he was at a friend at another employee's house. They were looking at their dogs playing on the lawn. They're going, why are these dogs eating the grass? And got home, opens up his computer. There's an ad about something about how to keep your dogs from eating the grass.
I hate to put a
Here's
fine
the
point
scary
on it.
part. They don't have to listen to you to be that good at predicting.
How
I
do
go
they do
back
it?
and forth so frequently because you're searching for other things. Like, never mind. I don't want. This is completely a rat hole.
And
Okay.
yeah, it is a rat hole. But here's what I will say about it.
But here we go.
It must be technically listening, because how would Hey Siri work if it can't identify that string and open up for you? So
That's on device.
they must be listening all the time. Now the question is, did the person who wrote the algorithm say keep everything else offline until you hear that trigger? And you can do that locally. I mean, this is kind of in a sort of a way Apple's pitch for their security thing. It's not that we will never listen, because we want to be listening for Hey Siri, but they're saying they're going to do all the calculation they can on your device, not back and forth, and they're not going to be constantly trying to take your entire stream and parse it. But everything is going to always be listening if you're going to get voice command out in the world. That's just how it has to work.
Steven, then Courtney, then Guy.
Okay. Friend owns a restaurant. I do not talk restaurant stuff, but right now things are closed and we're revamping stuff. So we were talking dishware cleaners, very specific bar thing. I've gotten ads every day since that conversation.
Courtney.
Yeah, but what you're not realizing is everybody that owns a restaurant is talking about that stuff. So those cleaner people are advertising like crazy because there's a huge market for it. And the way the voice recognition works, and this has been tested by many people with Wireshark and other means of listening in over the Ethernet to what's going in and going out. And it listens for, all these devices listen for their keyword. That's why you're limited in keywords, and that's done on the device itself. And it does not send anything to Mother in the Sky until it hears the keyword, and then voice recognition kicks in. So theoretically, there's only a couple of times if it hears its keyword, or if it's set off an alarm and it's listening for you to say, hey, shut off, without saying the keyword. Those are pretty much the only time that it's sending stuff back for voice recognition.
I think that view is naive at best.
Well, it's
Guy?
been tested by a lot of security experts.
I don't trust it.
So there is a physical cover that comes with it, this black thing that you can cover the camera lens. And then I haven't taken the thing apart yet, but there is also a mic and video hard switch, so that they say that when you push that, when that light's red, that it's not listening. But somebody needs to do a tear down video to make sure that it's physically doing what they say it does.
Stewart?
The mic wouldn't unmute. That listening and always listening, that's actually built into the Chrome browser. So it happens not just on devices, it happens on your PC or your Mac, and it doesn't matter your brand. All of the browsers have been building that in over the last 5 to 10 years.
Jason.
And yes, they word search and they match, and that's why they build supercomputers.
Go, Jason.
I will say this much. I can't disprove a negative. And I've had this debate so many times, and I've run my own logs. There are plenty of ways, and the scariest part is they don't have to listen.
Well, maybe they don't have to, but I assure you they are. You know, I mean, Snowden was proven to be right, that what he complained about, the US courts have said, yes, that is absolutely illegal to batch grab all the data. They're grabbing everything.
Well, if you're a target of the NSA, sure, all bets are off. Your shoes are probably listening to you.
Wait, so no. What Fenwick is saying is that there are data centers that are collecting our encrypted voice Hey Siris. You think they can target ads against you with those? The encrypted? No. You're switching. No.
Okay. Okay. Let's go to the next
Interesting
question.
topic, though, isn't it? Everybody is invested in this. Everybody wants to know exactly how this new technology is working. And some of it, I just think some of it is going to be controllable, some isn't. I'm happy when a company says we are sandboxing and we have some of these things. Like I remember Apple in one of their recent updates said we are going to not make there's a hardware cutoff ability in Apple laptops and I think other computers to cut the audio chain so that somebody cannot remotely turn it on if you have that on. But there's also going to be tons of ways that we interact with the world, and they're going to find the information they want. There's too many big computers doing too much looking. My strategy is just to be not important enough for anybody to care about what I'm doing.
Well, I think I'm sorry, I'm going to go a little deeper. So, Courtney, you said everybody's interested in restaurant stuff. So, yeah, you're going to see some ads. But I think the coincidence that Stephen was seeing it after having the discussion with his friend, that doesn't jive. That restaurant people are putting up ads to everybody. There's a really interesting interview that was done. It was on 60 Minutes, I believe. And it was done about a year or two ago with the guy who did all of the Facebook AdSense, or it's not AdSense, but he worked with Facebook for the 2016 Trump campaign. And he explained how he worked with them to razor focus ads. And this guy, it's not Brad, but it's somebody else. This guy is widely credited with winning the election. I think that their ability to razor focus ads is dependent on these types of things.
Yeah, but it's not voice search. It's if your friend owns a restaurant, maybe 6 weeks ago he was searching for some restaurant tools or something, so he got classified as a restaurateur. So now it's serving all kinds of restaurant.
He's a restaurateur. I get it, but Steven said that he started getting ads, and he's
I
not
got the ads.
Yeah, but you're a friend to the guy
because
who
he had a
was the
conversation
restaurateur.
with the restaurateur.
Well, maybe because he was linked to that person, and they do make associations through contact lists. So if they're serving ads to your restaurateur and they see that he's connected to somebody else, it can then bring that second person in on the AdSense for that restaurateur.
Go, Jason, and then I promise we'll stop, because I'm sure Alex would have stopped this a long time ago.
Yeah, that's called confirmation bias, and the reason everyone has a story like that is because you remember the times when it works. That's just one of these frailties of our consciousness. You were talking about Brad Pascal, and that was 2017 in The Guardian. Interesting piece, but it has nothing at all to do with this.
Okay, let's go to the next question.
Hi.
I like cheese.
What, Phil? What's next?
Potato. Raul Santos. Any good call-in budget alternatives to the? By the way, we're talking about media here today. Raul Santos. Any good call-in budget alternatives to X-Rite Color Checker Passport? Don't even know what that is.
It's a little coloured panel you hold up in front of the camera to record vision of for the lights in the room, so you can make sure the colours are correct when it comes time for post. The answer is probably no, because the dyes are specific to those colours and you need to match those dyes properly, and that's also why you need to replace the X-Rite colour checker every so often, because the dyes fade and you want to maintain. Jason could probably answer this probably more, but I recall the dyes are also related to the dyes used in film stock. I'm not 100% sure. Somebody else might be able to answer that too.
I stand corrected. It was Brad.
Yeah, I don't think the dyes are color corrected for the film gamut. That's why they're made specifically for film cameras. But now I'm sure they've changed to digital video gamuts.
Jason, then Bill, and I want to see what Felipe is holding up.
All right, yeah, the X-Rite, so the Color Checker Passport is fine. This is a smaller and earlier one. Don't go there until you really have stuff that is actually going to use it. Get a great gray card. You'll be very impressed by the difference that makes. Yes, if you look deep enough, there are ways. People have actually hacked these and figured out how to get them with Pantone, with the samples that they have at hardware stores. Don't go there. Get a gray card.
Who was next? There's something that we're doing different today that is causing my primary display to go to speaker view often. Bill?
Okay, this is a personal story, so take that for what it's worth. But I tried to use that Passport color system on a big shoot I had in Florida maybe 4 or 5 years ago when it first came out, and they were pitching it as something that would work with Final Cut at the time. So I thought, well, cool. I ordered it and I got it in, and it came, and I tried to use it and it failed utterly. And when I called them afterwards and saying this whole system did not work for me, they said, well, you have the photo one. And I said, but I ordered this off the ad that said it worked with Final Cut. Okay, well, I'll give it another fair chance. Will you send me the video one? And they said no. They said you have to buy the video one. And at that point, I wrote them off as a company. Again, this is personal. I'm not saying they're a bad company, but I'm saying my personal experience with the customer service of them not sending me a $12 piece of plastic with color in it to take care of something that they pitched to me as a solution that didn't solve my problem just annoyed me to the point where I said, not doing that ever again. So whatever John is going to talk about, I'd go there instead.
John?
Well, I was just going to say to Jason, don't poo-poo the Pantone.
I love that you actually have one. That
Look
was
at the
so
weird
perfect.
thing that's happening to the color when John holds that thing up. You see the center square and how it sort of, does everyone else see sort of a weird?
Well, the center square is a hole. I have to turn my background off. Hold on, guys.
And the green one keys out.
Yeah, so
right.
here, let me.
Pantone color for poo-poo. I think it's up in the middle.
Here, that's what this looks like. That's a hole. I could put my finger through it. But there's an app. This is to use color, but where we use it usually is, I work with the state parks. We had people at multiple locations. We were trying to figure out what to do with color. They were able to go to paint stores, which is not quite this. And we got them to pick the same chips and they put them on it. And then we were able to when we came back in color balancing to make the colors look correct. Anyway, this is fun, but there's an app that lets you accurately measure color with your smartphone.
Okay. Let's go to the next question.
All right. Laura Seal from Greensboro, North Carolina. How do specs for the Atomos Connect compare with the Elgato Camlink? Which would you buy, and when will Guy have them in stock?
I'm not sure if those have come in yet, but I'm looking at the specs, and I did test a couple of these different ones. And so this is the one that Laura's referring to. It's one that just got released for $79, works with any device. When I was testing some of these inexpensive ones, I mean, I'm talking down to $20, there was an issue with the color. So you want to be careful of this YUV JPEG versus MJPEG. So when you look at one like a $345 UTAP, these AJ ones are for professional purposes and they've been around for a while. They have a different way of bringing the video in. So it seems like there's some manufacturers that have come out with some ways of doing this for a lot less money. So you just want to be careful. I'd imagine that some people are going to put up some videos pretty soon. It may even be me. I'll order some of the, I know we have some on order. I just don't know if they've arrived in the warehouse yet, and I'll go ahead and test those and see which is better. I don't have a Camlink, but I can test the YUV versus MJPEG of the ATEM Mini. So hopefully that'll
It's
be able to
really amazing the number of companies that build little things like that. But what you're pointing out is the JPEG versus MPEG, right? Is that what you said?
MJPEG versus I think it's just JPEG YUV. There's a difference because when I was testing some of them, man, it was like the color was just mud. I mean, side by side, it was
one's
drastic.
additive and one's like inferred or something, and they do that to change or to save bandwidth, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely to be lightweight it's just USB, a lightweight way of bringing video in, so it's not so heavy for like a Chromebook or something like that. And for those purposes where it doesn't really matter if the image quality is that great, then they're fine. I mean, even the $20 ones. I think, Courtney, didn't you get a couple of those off of Amazon or something? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think mine were like $15, and they seemed okay to me. Of course, you can correct them a little bit if you have color correction software, so you can get them back into the range that you want. And I think it may be the difference between some of them use a YUV and some of them use RGB color space, and so the differences in those color space. And if you compare one that's RGB with one that's YUV, they're not going to jive usually.
Right. Let's go to the next question.
Yeah, Michael Fitz. See lots of multiple monitor setups here. Suggestions for arms for larger 27-inch, 23-pound monitors. I have three 27 inches, so having them in a row would work too. Monitor arm suggestions.
Jason?
Generally, unless you have really cheap monitors, I've always just gone with Ergotron. Yes, they're expensive. They work really, really well. If you're not going to be moving them a lot, then Monoprice has some pretty great gas and spring-lifted arms.
I still put everything on the desk.
I would just jump in here and say Amazon Basics are great options. I've been buying a lot of those.
For monitor mounts?
Yeah, gas lifted. Yeah, they have great prices. And
does anybody know the business model behind the Amazon Basics? Are they just sourcing things?
It's a conspiracy to make sure that we all die quickly.
Whoa.
And they can own the world.
Whoa.
It's basically like your store brand labeling, they'll find the manufacturer of one of the leading ones, and they'll make a deal with them to brand it themselves.
Got it. Bill?
But the quality's always been very good. Sometimes store brand items can be a little bit inferior, but the Amazon Basics arms are really good.
Yeah, I think they, they have a vested interest. I mean, they literally are putting their name on something, so they probably don't want to do it, on something that's bad. I can remember a friend of mine when he first started using the shopping at home, grocery stuff, and I said, how do you pick produce and stuff? And he says, I tell them I want some carrots, and they bring me great carrots. I said, really? And he goes, why wouldn't they? If they brought you bad carrots, it would get out really quickly, and nobody would ever try and buy produce again. Bill and Courtney?
So most of manufacturing has gone to this model. It used to be that, if you wanted a washer and dryer from Whirlpool or a Mana or Sears or whomever, Kenmore, there would be different factories for all those things. That has pretty much gone out of the manufacturing world out there. And now you'll get a big plant that takes the orders from all the manufacturers, and they will say, you're going to have your metal shield, but it's going to be the same things. You want the 3-amp motor, you want the 4-amp motor. Other than that, they just connect these things, and the plant will run a Mana for a shift, and then they will run a different brand for the next part of the shift, and a different brand. It happens with all sorts of consumer goods. So it wouldn't surprise me if 3 different brands of arms you get are coming out of the same foundry creation service somewhere, and just are branded differently. And most of the house brands, when you go in and find whether it's food products or manufactured goods or whatever, the difference is marketing in large part, but also they do sometimes say, we had a circumstance with dog food because I used to do a lot of advertising stuff for PetSmart. So an animal nutritionist would figure out how they wanted their dog food formulated, and they would have, do you want a chemical stabilizer or something like etoxaquin that's a vitamin C derivative, and somebody on a panel would punch it and say it's a little bit different, but it's coming off the same line. So I'm not saying there's no differences between these things, but I am saying they're all coming out of central production places, and so often the 3 brands that you're looking at are made in the same place.
A brief history of manufacturing. Courtney.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, I need to remind you that it's called Amazon Basics for a reason. You're not going to find the premium product there, or the really ratty, cheapy product there. They take the average highest, average medium to high rating, and then that's where they make their deals, so that they can keep the price down. They can so you're not paying for that brand name on there only, and they'll stay away from the really premium stuff, and so it's more of a basic.
It would be interesting to talk to somebody high up in Amazon who would explain how they're going about doing that. Next question.
Well, they just listen through their devices to the engineers that are designing the other ones, and then they just copy that.
Careful.
So that's how it works.
I'm just saying, watch your back.
Yeah, if you're an engineer, product designer. Yeah. Okay, Paul, French startup Klaxoon is launching Board, a visual interface that lets you work together during a video call. Instead of staring at other people's faces, you get a shared canvas that you can use for presentations and to suggest ideas. Comment?
It's an interesting idea.
Klaxoon. Isn't that a Swedish wind instrument from IKEA?
The bass klaxoon is.
Yeah.
It sounds more like a line from a 50s sci-fi.
I mean, isn't this basically like a Google document? Except
I don't know. I signed up for the demo tomorrow at 11 o'clock, so I'll find out what it's about.
You'll report back on.
I'll report back to you, Chris. By the way, you let it slip that Paul was your boss, and you weren't supposed to let that slip out.
Nah, whatever. That's fine. He bosses me around all the time. Yeah, I mean, this sounds like a shared document with different colored cursors, but maybe it's more of a whiteboard where you can sketch. And frankly, if you look at there's somebody's password just got put up, and maybe if they incorporated I think Apple is calling it Scribble technology, where you could handwrite something and it turns it into digital text. Here, what are we doing here? Guy, explain what's going on.
This is that Klaxoon demo video. I had seen this at CS and I took a little bit of an interest in it. I'm not exactly sure now how they've evolved in the last 2 years, but it looks like that they're coming out in the back. It kind of reminds me of Jamboard on Google. So we'll see what's different.
I've seen so many of these things, and I worked at all sorts of agencies and places. I've never actually seen people using this stuff. I've seen a lot of people, announcing and rolling it out, but who uses this?
And the Microsoft Surface Pro, which is that $10,000, 55-inch monitor with touchscreen, has a lot of these features in it with whiteboard collaboration and that kind of stuff. But you're right, I've never seen anybody use them.
So it's interesting, I've had this discussion with the Lumberjack folks. They were on a Saturday with the Final Cut when we were talking to Philip and Greg, or I guess Philip was there. And one of the things that I find is a barrier to acceptance is you have to get, a lot of times a tech solution gets presented to the tech people, but for something to be truly adopted through a workforce, it really has to be pushed down from the top. Like you have to have buy-off at the highest levels. And until you do, what you're going to have is you're going to have a bunch of old guys like me who just sit around and was like, well, this is the way we've always done it. And you're going to continue to do it that way until you inspire me to see what the potential value add is of this new technology before I'm going to bother trying to accept it. So yeah, what you get is you get people saying, here's a new thing, here's a new thing, here's a new thing. But like Phil was just saying, all these old-timey ad execs, they're just going to do things the way they always do it.
Excel
right?
spreadsheet.
Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Bill.
Yeah, this reminds me of moving digital whiteboards into classrooms, and I had some experience because my son was in school at the year those things started coming in. It's not just what the thing does, but the teachers have to learn how to use it. So if it's not in the classroom for a few years and they're not coming up to the level of the technology, it ends up not transforming things. So my question would be, how well will they do, and how standardized will the interface become, and how many people know how to use it?
Let's go to the next question.
Kind of related from Jason Fitzgerald. Does anyone have a business management software they like? Something integrated that handles quoting, scheduling, equipment tracking, some CRM, etc. I've got
Go Phil.
a little
Jump
experience
on it.
with we've tried a bunch of different ones. You know, you have at the high end sort of the Salesforce suite of stuff, but that's multiple Alex kind of stuff. Otherwise, you've got like Freshdesk and some of these sort of suites of tracking and customer service and CRM and stuff, and then the Zoho suite, which is kind of wonky, but it's pretty cheap. So you know, we've never found anything that we love, but right now we're on the Freshdesk kind of suite of tools.
Can you explain a little bit more about what it does?
Well, we use it for we have a client database here. Let me just pull it up here real quick.
Is that related to FreshBooks, or is that
Yeah,
different?
so it's
totally?
FreshBooks. So it does all your bookkeeping stuff. But each one of these is sort of a different subscription, but
Careful
it's all
showing
from
your
the
screen.
same company. It's not unlike Zendesk if you've ever used that. And Zendesk also has, you know, various things, but they've got a marketing and a sales and a service component, and each of these are separate subscriptions that you can do. CRM, we track issues, so we have a lot of guys in the field who are making service calls to locations, and we track each of those issues internally, and then we can also have a customer facing portal, so we're communicating with the client. So it's sort of a ticket tracking system. And then they have like built-in bug tracking if you're doing any development. So it really depends on your, you know, I know you listed here, what is it, Jason, that you said quoting, scheduling, equipment tracking. It really depends on your unique industry, because every industry has a different sort of a specialty software developer who's kind of tweaked it. I know there was one for the wedding industry where we were handling planners and all sorts of vendors and then clients, and we really couldn't make anything else work except for this one stupid one. It's called Honeybook. But you know, it really depends on your industry. I'm sorry, I'm going on.
No, it's interesting because I know that in our business, you know, we manage multiple editors that are simultaneously responding to requests from multiple producers, and we have, you know, a management layer that is making sure people are getting things done. And I've been toying with the idea, you know, we have our own, I think I've talked about it in the past, we have our own sort of internal Frame.io kind of thing that we wrote 13 years ago, and we've been constantly updating it and improving it. And I'm considering putting into that a task manager so
Right.
that producers can request a task, management can assign a task, editors can perform a task, and there's even like a start-stop button or some way to track how much time I spent on the task, because then the next module I would create, again from scratch, would be the now let's report, excuse me, report that to accounting so that things can be billed appropriately.
So there's a different tool that I would recommend you look at for that. There's a tool called Teamwork, which is a sort of a project management, a group project management suite, and it's pretty in depth. And you can see all the projects. Each person can have their own view. If you're got to hand off dependencies to other people, and you can have Gantt charts about when do you need your resources, and you know, you've got 4 editors, but are they all going to be booked on the second week of October? You know, that kind of stuff. So you can kind of see on a calendar as resources, and that's a pretty nice tool that we also use. But the temptation is always to sit there and to say, you know, we could probably build something, a tool that we could really track exactly what we want, but don't do that ever. Never do that.
Why do you say that? Just because the amount of time and money that
Unless
we're
you're going to
putting
be a
into
full-time developer and have a development group, it'll never be right, and it'll just be a pain in the ass, and it won't work.
Beside the guy who built it gets fired a year later and nobody
Right.
knows how to fix
Exactly. You won't support it, and it never is as smooth or as sort of, you want interface niceties like I see, you know, Discord has all these sweet little tools. Why can't we have all those sweet little extras in our
Yeah, I
tool? And
think if you manage, so in my experience, and again, I'm probably doing it completely wrong. It's been a hallmark of my career. I have a guy, he's got a job,
Right.
and like once a year or so, I contact him. I go, hey, I have a couple features I want to add. When can you
Right.
do it? He goes, I'll have some time in the next few weeks.
No, and that, but look at Mukana. It's the same thing. That's taken 10 years to get to that. And it's, while it serves us well functionally, it's not got the polish that a team of 7 developers working full time would have, like a Discord type of a tool. You
Understood. So,
understand?
but again, managed expectations means, hey, I know it's not going to be that, but other than that, it's exactly what I want it to be. Without,
I understand, but
being
you're gonna want it to be compatible with Facebook tomorrow, or some next new Slack, and it's not going to have those hooks, And
Yeah, I
so
see what you're saying.
the tools aren't there. There used to be like I don't want to go into like FileMaker Pro used to be a great tool for sort of building your own sort of company thing. But everybody has gone down that road, has sort of said, I've grown into that as much as I care to, but it's such a pain to add new features and to keep it updated and all of that stuff. And it's just a road that is painful. And I don't know.
I think my personal problem is looking at something that's, pretty much it, and then just having to wade through all the stuff that I don't need it for.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't use that feature.
That's right.
Or you go into it and you realize, oh, somebody entered a bit of data there like 9 months ago. It's like, why wasn't this taken care of? Oh, well, we don't look at that window,
Right.
or something.
Yeah.
Let's go to the
Anyway.
next question.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Good.
Rat hole,
No,
but you can tell it's something I've spent a lot of time
No, and
kvetching about.
maybe my experience has been unique in just that, we've actually had a very good, we spent a fair amount of money, but it's also definitely, a big part of what has kept Slice successful.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been really good. Anyway, go ahead. Next question.
Felipe, can you use a V-Lock battery while it's being charged? Not asking if it's possible it is, just if it's advised or not. Example, a GH5 connected to a V-Lock that's connected to the wall.
Stewart is shaking his head. But which
Don't
way?
do it
We'll come
because
back.
it means the device is actually running off the power pack, not off the battery. It's just using the battery as a big capacitor so that when it needs extra power, it'll pull that. Instead, charge the battery, use the battery. It's just safer. Same goes with all those sorts of lithium-ion based batteries. It's just smarter to charge it and use it separately.
Mickey, then Courtney.
Yeah, to what the Stewart was saying, it depends on how the BMS, the battery management system of that specific lithium battery works. But my biggest concern with doing that would just be you are wasting the cycles of the lithium ion cell. I would suggest if you want to go through this route is buy one of those battery V-mount battery plates that have power in, like either a 4-pin XLR or a direct AC in, and then put the battery on that plate. It has a pass-through that would charge the battery, so you're not wasting the cycles of the battery. When that charger is plugged in, your camera is getting power from the charger while charging the battery at the same time.
I could see with that response, I could see Felipe going, I think I understand what you're saying. Stuart, do you have something you want to add to that?
Yeah, just one thing with the using a cheaper charger, you can also be introducing electrical noise into the system, and that can carry through, especially into the sound side of a camera.
Felipe?
Oh yeah, thanks everyone for the answers, and yeah, that's great.
Courtney?
Yeah, one thing to keep in consideration, I agree with everything that Mickey said about the cycle saving on the recharge cycles on your lithium ion. But a lot of times the power supply charger wall wart or whatever it is that you're using to get your AC from is only designed to either charge the battery or power the camera, but not do both. So you have to maybe bump up, if you're going to plan on doing that, bump up to a higher amperage power supply so that it can handle charging both. Because a lot of times if it's powering the camera, it won't have enough current left over to charge the battery, so the battery management system chip won't even turn on a lot of times. So you got to be
Yeah, in my
careful with that.
case, I have noticed that it is enough. The way it has been behaving is pretty much the same as a laptop. If I started with the battery at 50% and turned on my camera and put it to charge, it's able to charge it to 100% and continue that way. But yeah, I was just thinking if I should change this. I mean, it never happened anything bad here. I haven't seen smoke, and camera still works. But yeah, I was just wondering because sometimes I want to leave the camera on, let's say for 8 hours in a row, and sometimes I forget to just switch off when I'm not using the camera. So trying to find a way that could be useful here.
Mr. Preto, do you have anything you want to add? Come on, just say something. Okay, let's go to the next question.
There's the last question, unless anybody, yeah. So Marty Atlas from Silver Springs, Maryland. How can you port VLC's output to play into Zoom's Share PC audio?
You know, a few weeks ago, Colin was walking Alex through how to use VLC to pull files out of, I think it was YouTube. And I gotta tell you, I watched some tutorials. I poked around at that I probably spent close to I wasted an hour of my life. I could not for the life of me figure out how to do that. It drove me bonkers. I think talking about something else than this question, Marty.
Yeah.
I apologize.
I think to answer this question, I don't think you try to do it inside VLC. You just use audio hijack or loopback or something like that to reroute it.
We does say share PC audio.
Yeah,
Could
well,
mean Windows.
you know, I don't know, Marty, if you're just trying to get VLC's sound, because you say PC audio, if you're just trying to get the sound out of VLC, it might just be easier to reroute it.
And Chris, you have that insanely great screen capture program on your Mac.
Yeah, but and that's what I ended up doing. But there is issues with using screen capture software. It has to happen in real time. You can't use the computer because you're going to probably put the mouse through something. Stewart, then Courtney, then Bill.
Okay, two things. First, Chris, just use a browser add-on. It'll capture the video. The second thing is, where in Zoom is it saying share PC audio? Because I'm looking at Zoom on a
share
PC,
screen. When you do a
and I'm
screen
not finding
share,
it.
when you do a share screen, it says share computer sound on that at the bottom there's. But he says he's on a PC, so you'd need to use some sort of a loopback equivalent. I think it's Potato or Mango or something like that on a PC.
Right down here, it's share computer sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, the VB audio seems to sound right, but the other way would just be to use the NDI out from VLC and into Zoom that way.
Courtney, then Bill.
There it goes. I was just going to suggest, do what I do and use an outboard mixer and a second, like I have a little Windows tablet over here that is, I can plug in anytime, and you can just trigger it separately whenever you want to fly something in.
I think we should do a 70s themed office hours and let Courtney run all the sound effects. And do all the VOs in and out of commercial spots.
We need to use video filters that were on camcorders and have like little flashing red lights in the corner.
Yes, of course we should.
Trinity sheep wipes.
Right.
No, that would be a toaster sheep wipe.
Yeah.
Kiki wipes. Bill, you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, do not do where my mind went the first time, which is, well, you could take a 3.5 millimeter out of your laptop into the ATEM, and then the ATEM goes you're going to blow something up. Sometimes the easiest way is not the easiest way, so just use one of these tools and try not to.
There you go, Chris.
Have too many wires hanging around.
I like that.
I think we
Is
should all
that,
just go VHS. What do you say?
VHS.
Yeah, I love how it smears the the chroma all over the screen.
I know, isn't that? That's pretty. The red channel's off by about a quarter of an inch.
By a
That looks
considerable
very much
amount.
like regular 8mm.
I do think we
Three
have
generations.
one more question, unless somebody else has something
Yeah.
they want to add to this. Let's
Yep.
move on.
Okay. It's Charles Klein. Just for fun, does the group have experience
Charles.
with 8K HDMI or HDMI 2.1 cables?
Is there going to be HK HDMI? Is that really a thing?
Doesn't Blackmagic have a 12K thing now?
Yeah, but
Not over
HDMI.
HDMI.
Oh, HDMI over the protocol. Yeah.
I mean, I know for a fact, because I'm not supposed to know, that some of the first, 8K tests were done with 4K devices and 4K cables and all kinds of tomfoolery to get that much image. But Stewart, you were shaking your head. Is there any talk of HK HDMI yet?
Not that I know of. I was just thinking of the Kona 4 card that I need to buy from California, which does quad SDI out of the camera to be able to record RAW at 120 frames. There is talk of Japanese broadcasters already having 8K cameras, but I think it was actually using something from Grass Valley to get it across, because they were using the HQX codec from Grass Valley.
Yeah, NHK always was the leader of the high def movement, usually Nippon.
Years ago, like 89, I think, maybe early 90s, I saw analog.
Hang on, Chris. If you're going to do that, it's got to be 4.3. It can't be 16.9 if you're going to have VHS. It's got to be 4.3.
You're right. I don't have a button for that.
It's like you need a bug zapper too.
I can go
digital fireflies.
Yeah. So anyway, I saw analog HD at NAB, and that's very wide. And it was amazing. It was well before digital HD, and it was absolutely amazing. It looked like, and it was a giant CRT, and it looked like you were just looking through a piece of glass at something. Has anybody else seen that?
Yeah, NAB demos, the only place I've seen that stuff. And usually, you're right, it's NHK's Japanese broadcast will come over and show you what they're going to do for the Olympics next time. And it's these amazing displays with amazing pictures.
Guy, Greg, Stewart.
This is a 8K video at CES, and they had a whole data management system, and they were using, out of their little consumer camera, it was just a single 8K image, one cable. And then with their editing system, they had the 4 going into like a quadro, and they had this big old thing called a Terrazone or something like that. But yeah, they had the whole ecosystem set up, and it was crazy to see 8K editing in Premiere. But it was through 4 HDMI cables driving a display.
I want to see one more shot of you. There we go. Okay. Who was next? I can't remember. Oh, it was Greg.
I will yield my time to the honorable gentleman from Australia.
Stewart.
Grant's not here tonight. He said honourable.
So we'll take you.
I'm actually sitting arm's reach from a Sony Trinitron 28-inch TV that came out of a broadcast facility. So when you're talking about HD, broadcast cameras have been 800 plus lines in the broadcast facility for a long, long time. I mean, by the time you go through the transmitter and then out to the people's home, then it's junk in comparison. But a frequency unlocked analog camera was 800 plus lines, and there is actually now an analog HD standard for security cameras of all things that uses a single cable as well.
Stewart, how much does that CRT weigh?
300 pounds.
Well, I can move it by myself, which I probably shouldn't. But
how many stone?
No idea in stones, but probably 35, 40 kilograms.
Yeah,
I used to get in trouble for grabbing drums of Triax one in each hand, and they were 35 kilos each, and tossing it sideways into a cage. So yeah, I get in trouble.
Well, that's it for today. We made it. Still upset that great intro I did was not recorded. No, I'm kidding. Mickey, play the music. Tomorrow, we're going to do it again. I have nothing to say. Play the short version of the music. Tomorrow will be camera/video centric, maybe. I don't know if there's any artists on Tuesday. As far as I know, Alex will be back tomorrow, so it'll be much better. And then education on Friday and Saturday.
Sell it, Chris.
All right, cameras and
education is
video.
probably the most important thing that we talk about.
Nice guest next Tuesday, though.
Talk later. Bye.